Well, this morning we are wrapping up our sermon series on the book of James. I think it's been a great series. This is the sixth and final installment of this 5-chapter book that we've been calling A Manual for Maturity. James is passionate about people growing up in Christ. In fact, he uses that word mature 7 times. 7 times in 5 chapters, James uses the word mature. James says it's time to move out of spiritual infancy and childhood and adolescence and grow up. You've heard the story of the little boy who fell out of bed. His mother asked him what happened, and he answered, "Well, I don't know. I guess I stayed too close to where I got in." Many of us are probably guilty of doing that with our faith. You know, it's tempting to just sort of stay close to where we got in, right? Many of us do that with our faith, yet growth is the goal of the Christian. Maturity is mandatory. If a child were to stop developing, the parents would be concerned, right? Doctors would be called, tests would be run. They would try and figure out why their child is no longer growing and no longer developing. The same is true for for your Christian faith. If it's not growing, something is wrong. And something needs to be done about that. When a Christian stops growing, stops maturing in their faith, help is needed. That's what James says. If you're the same Christian today that you were just a few months ago, you might want to be careful. You might be wise to do a checkup, not on your body, but on your heart. Not a physical, but a spiritual. Don't make the mistake of that little boy. Don't stay too near to where you got in. It's risky, resting on the edge. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Who among you likes waiting? I don't see any hands raised. I mean, how long is it that before you start fidgeting in the doctor's waiting room? 10 minutes? 5? Maybe 3? Have you had to renew your car registration recently? I don't care what time of day it is, when you go down there, you have to wait in line. And it can be a long one sometimes. You know, waiting can be excruciating. I never fail to hit the light red at the corner of Autumn Ridge and South Morgan Street. You can read the Fort Worth Star-Telegram while you're waiting for it to turn green. As impatient as I am, can you imagine the younger generation today, growing up today? Everything is instant today, right? There's texting, there's email, there's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's Snapchat. Some of them may not even know what a stamp is. Soon they'll be standing in front of the microwave oven screaming, "Hurry up, I don't have all minute." We are an impatient people. So we're going to take just a short little quiz this morning. I want you to take out your sermon notes. It's a fill in the blank, one of the easier types of quizzes. And I invite you to verbalize your answers if you feel so moved. First sort of question, statement, we're going to fill in this blank. How would you fill in this blank? I want it now. Yeah. I said do it now. You got it. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, but dear God, give me patience and give it to me right now. Yeah, that's kind of our daily prayer, isn't it? Give me patience, Lord, but I want it now, right now. You probably noticed that word now is a word that we all use quite often. And if that word now isn't descriptive enough, some of us might say, I want it yesterday, right? We think that everything in the world needs to meet our needs right now. After all, we have instant communication, we have instant pudding and instant potatoes, we have instant everything today. And of course, we're all looking for an instant diet, an instant exercise program, an instant $1 million. Some of you might be waiting for Pastor Shoddy to preach an instant sermon. Don't hold your breath on that one. Why are we so impatient? I think we're so impatient because we've been raised on the milk of 10-second sound bites, 30-second commercials, and 30-minute sitcoms. The air we breathe, the air that we breathe is that everything needs to serve my needs right now. Now, James has shown us these past 6 weeks, chapter after chapter, what a growing, maturing Christian faith looks like. And today, James addresses this sin of ours called impatience. In fact, in our reading this morning from James chapter 5, he makes it very clear that one of the major marks of a growing, maturing Christian is that person is marked by patience. It's actually a word that James uses 5 times in our reading. 5 times. Do you suppose he's trying to teach us something here? So I've entitled today's message, Practicing Patience. And I'm going to give you the opportunity this morning to do just that. Practice patience. Now, I can't resist talking about the Greek word that James uses here. What is patience? For James, it's this word macrothumia. It's a compound of 2 Greek words. Macro, which means, of course, long, right, as opposed to short. Thumos, it means heat. It's where we get our English words like thermos and thermometer and thermostat. So macrothumia means long on the heat. It takes a long time to get hot under the collar. Macrothumia, translated patience, means that I don't have a short fuse. Macrothumia, 5 times in our reading today. And James uses a related word as well, perseverance. He uses that word 2 times for a total of 7 times in our reading this morning. James is telling us that the mark of a Christian, the mark of a maturing Christian, is that I am long on the heat. I have a long fuse. It takes a long time until I blow up. And today, James gives us 3 different occasions in life where we might need a whole lot of patience. And the first one is this: I need to be patient when circumstances are uncontrollable. When circumstances are uncontrollable. Now, I know that all of us are control freaks to some degree or another. I know that all of us think that maybe we can control everything, but if we're honest with ourselves, we know that we can't. There are some things in life that are simply uncontrollable, and I need patience when that happens. James, he says it this way. He says, see how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, and how patient he is for the autumn and spring rains. And in James's day, he's writing about 45 A.D. or so. Apparently the farmers in first century Palestine were very patient. Well, that's good for them. Now, my history, my experience with farming and with farmers indicates that today's farmers probably not so much. Maybe I've told you this before, but I spent my high school years working for a farmer. He farmed primarily wheat and cotton, and I spent my days and my evenings plowing the fields, sort of planting the seeds and spraying the crops. Occasionally, every now and then, I would get to join him for a cup of coffee down at the corner drugstore. You go into that drugstore, and there's these whole lot of farmers. They're just sitting around, gathering there in the morning, drinking their coffee, and they're talking. And talking and talking and talking. You wonder how they get any work done. Now, they wouldn't be talking about sports or politics like most people. No, they talked about the weather. They talked about the weather. The top 10 topics of conversation were rain, and how impatient they were for the rain. If it doesn't rain soon, the soil's going to blow away. If it doesn't rain soon, the seed's not going to sprout. If it doesn't rain soon, the wheat's going to dry and die. Well, rain, of course, would be a circumstance that's simply uncontrollable, isn't it? And I'm sure you've noticed that there are a whole lot of other things in life that are absolutely uncontrollable, that call for patience. Have you ever had to call customer service? Maybe your credit card bill was wrong. Maybe that item that you bought yesterday isn't working today. You call customer service, and after working your way through the menu, you hear those dreaded words. your call is important to us. Please wait for the next available service representative. Now, it takes, on average, according to statistics, for the next service rep about 11 years to become available. Wait becomes a 4-letter word. Wait! I want it right now. Much of life, though, is waiting, isn't it? I couldn't wait to go to first grade, so I got to skip kindergarten. I couldn't wait to go to high school, and then, trust me, I couldn't wait to get out of high school and leave home for college. And when I got to college and sort of got through college, when I was looking to meet this girl, you know, I was anxious to meet the right girl and to fall in love. And when I finally met that right girl, I was anxious to get married. Why wait? And then I was anxious to have children and more children. And then I couldn't wait for those children to go to school. I couldn't wait for them to leave home and go off to college. And now I can't wait to see those 3 lovely children. We all have circumstances that are uncontrollable in life. Maybe it's rain. If you're a farmer, maybe it's waiting for a service representative. Maybe you're waiting for a ride to show up, waiting for Friday to arrive. Maybe it's getting to the end of this sermon. But let's be honest, we all need patience when circumstances are uncontrollable. Please wait for the next service representative to be available. James goes on and he says that I need patience when people are unchangeable. There's a dirty little secret in life. You've probably all noticed it quite often. People simply don't want to change. If only people were more like me, life would be much, much better. Maybe you've developed a self-improvement program for your spouse. You've got it all lined out, 50 steps to an improved spouse, 10 steps just this afternoon, but your spouse just doesn't want to cooperate with your program because people don't like to change. And I need to be patient with this. James says, brothers, as an example of patience, again, macrothumia, not a short but a long fuse, as an example of patience in the face of suffering, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. So James moves from farmers to prophets, and in James's day, both of those were patient. They were very patient people. James is referring, of course, to the Old Testament prophets. So pick your favorite prophet. Elijah, for example. Elijah tried to change Jezebel and Ahab, but they were having none of it. But then there's famous Amos. Amos tried to change Amaziah, the high priest, and Jeroboam the second. They didn't cooperate. Isaiah tried to change Manasseh. Manasseh didn't want to change. Jeremiah wanted to change Zedekiah. Zedekiah the king, he didn't want to change. Sometimes people are just unchangeable. And that resistance to change begins with the first breath of life and ends with the last. Individuals are resistant to change. Institutions are resistant to change. Government, businesses, churches. Sometimes it's just better for us to realize I need to be patient in this circumstance because this person is simply unchangeable. I think it goes a lot better if you take that position of patience. It goes better for other people, especially those that you live with. It also goes better for you. So I need patience. I need this long fuse when circumstances are uncontrollable, and I need patience when people are unchangeable. And James has one other example for us of why and when we need patience. He says, I need patience when problems are unexplainable. Problems are unexplainable, and this is where Job comes in. We all have those kinds of problems, don't we? We all have problems that we simply can't comprehend. We just don't understand them. We can't get a grasp on them, and we ask that question, why? Why, Lord, why? So James gives us the example of Job, and we all know Job, don't we? James says, you've heard of Job's perseverance. Another Greek word here, hypomone. Perseverance is a lot like patience, isn't it? So we've had macrothumia, long on the heat, and now we have this Greek word hypomone. Mone means remain, and hypo means under. So the word means remain under. In this case, it means to remain under God's will. Patience, perseverance, especially when you're like Job and problems are simply unexplainable. Talk about World Series. Job played in the World Series of suffering, right? You know his story. Everyone knows the story of Job. You know, he lost all of his finances, his family, lost the whole farm, didn't he? Job suffers emotionally, spiritually, relationally. Job lost almost everything. He lost almost everything except what? A nagging wife. Really? A nagging wife. You can read all about it in Job chapter 2. What did Job's wife say to him? She said, "Curse God and die." Thank you very much, dear. Thank you very much for that vote of confidence. But the most difficult thing for Job is that he didn't know why. He didn't know why he was suffering so much and so acutely and so painfully. In fact, for 37 chapters, God is silent. For 37 chapters, God is a no-show in his life. For 37 chapters in the book of Job, God doesn't speak a word. And theologians like to call that the hidden God. You know what that's like, don't you? Why, God, why? Where are you? Where are you when I need you? In fact, in chapter 3 of Job, he asks that question 5 times. Why, God? Why is all of this happening to me? And God says nothing. Job's is such a traumatic experience, a traumatic story, a story that many of us know because you were all here for those 9 sermons that we had on the book of Job during the season of Lent. We all understand that Job's problems were unexplainable, and he needed perseverance. He needed to remain under God's will. He needed patience. So we've established when circumstances are uncontrollable, when people are unchangeable, and when problems are unexplainable, I need patience. So how do I practice that patience? James is going to help us out. One of the most practical books in the entire Bible. James outlines 3 steps for us. If I'm going to practice patience in these situations, we need to realize one simple, fundamental fact of life, and that is this: God is in control. You know, a lot of times I think things are simply out of control. What am I going to do about this? I can't control this. My wife can't control this. Nobody can control this. And in those situations, I become so impatient. James says, slow down, chill out. God is in control. 3 times in verses 7, 8, and 9, James refers us to Christ's second coming. 3 times he writes, be patient. Be patient then, brothers, until the Lord's coming. The Lord's coming is near. The judge is standing at the door. James makes his point very clearly. The chief teaching of the New Testament that God is in control is that he controls all of human history. And that implies that he controls my life as well. The New Testament teaches us that Christ will come again. That the archangel Michael will blow the trumpet, Christ will descend on the clouds, and he will come and he will carry his church away. So take a deep breath, a deep sigh of relief, unclench your fists, and simply acknowledge that God is in control. He's in control of all of human history and of your history as well. If I'm going to be patient, that's where it all begins. God is in control. Second, James says that God blesses patience. God blesses patience. James writes, as you know, we consider blessed those who have persevered. Blessed are those who have persevered, who remain under God's will. That word blessed, in its simplest form, its simplest understanding, means happy. If you don't want to be happy, I don't want to be happy. I'm going to be a grump. I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be sad. I'm not going to be glad. A very good way to accomplish that is not to be patient. Be a very impatient sort of person. You'll have a miserable life. It's just that simple. We consider blessed, we consider happy those who have persevered. It pays to be patient with my spouse. Tear up that self-improvement program that you've got lined out. It pays to be patient with my children, with my grandchildren. It really pays to be patient with my employees. It pays to be patient with myself. All kinds of blessings happen when we're patient, when we persevere. I'm a happier person. I'm much easier to get along with. I'm easier to live with. People like me more. I have more confidence, more trust in the God who has all things under control. You ever had to wait for an elevator? I don't know if you noticed this, but when an elevator is kind of slow, there are at least 4 kinds of people that show up. The first kind of person is the swayer. And they're just sort of standing there, sort of swaying back and forth. And then there's the bouncer. He's there bouncing up and down. Some people who show up at the elevator are pushers. Pushers believe that if I push this button hard enough and fast enough and often enough, the elevator's going to come. And then there are some of us who are people who just abandon ship. I'm tired of waiting on this elevator. I'm going to take the stairs. And of course, taking the stairs is better for you anyway, right? And we should do that all of us do that more often. James gives us a great incentive to simply be patient. Patience pays great dividends. Third, if I'm going to practice patience, I need to believe that God is working all things out. So we go back to Job. Remember, 37 chapters, God says nothing. The hidden God. But finally, God shows up. And that's James's point. James 5:11, he continues. He says, you have heard of Job's perseverance. Job was angry. He was mad, and he still remained under God's will. You've heard of Job's perseverance, and you've seen what the Lord finally brought about. God, after all, was working all things out for Job. In verse 12 of Job 42, it says that God blessed the last part of Job's life more than the first. Did you hear that? The rest of Job's life was the best of Job's life. Why? Because God finally showed up, and God put things right for Job, and God showed that he cared for Job, and he loved Job, and God showed that he had the power and the authority to take what was so rotten in Job's life and make it right again. And James should know. James should know that God really is the God who is working all things out. That's what Paul means. That's what Paul means when he mentions James, our James, the James who wrote the epistle of James in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 7. Paul writes these words in part. He says, then Christ appeared to James. Paul is listing the post-resurrection appearances of Jesus, and Paul says that Jesus appeared to James. You know that before that, James didn't believe. The Bible shows us that James and his brothers and sisters, none of them believed that God was working all things out through their brother named Jesus. When James became a believer, it's when God showed up in Christ on Easter. The risen Christ appeared to James. Oh, what a brother-to-brother talk that must have been. What a come-to-Jesus moment that must have been, right? James saw the risen Jesus, and he believed. He really believed. James believed that God was working all things out in his brother Jesus. That in Christ, God changes crucifixion to resurrection. That in Christ, weeping endures for a night, but joy, resurrection joy, comes in the morning. maybe you've noticed this. If not, try and pay attention to this next time. When you go out to eat, there are at least 5 times that you have to wait. The first is waiting for a table, and then you get to wait for your menu, right? Then you wait for your order, and then you wait for your food to arrive, and finally you wait for the check. And the restaurant has the audacity to call that person a waiter. We're the waiters. It's so hard to wait, isn't it? We get so frustrated with waiting. But you know what? 9 times out of 9, when we get impatient with circumstances or with people or with problems, we end up doing something thoughtless and stupid, something cheap and dirty. And we bring great shame and brokenness to ourselves and to the people that we love. James says, macrothumia, long on the heat. Have a long fuse. Hypomone, remain under God's loving and merciful will. And why is it that we should do that? Well, God is in control. God blesses patience. And God is working all things out. Patience, the mark of a maturing faith. Don't make the same mistake as that little boy. Don't stay too close to the edge. It's risky there. Don't stay too close to where you got in. I invite you this morning to trust James on this. Better yet, I invite you to trust Jesus on all of this. Amen. Let's stand and sing, shall we?